Okay.
Are you getting anywhere near John Paul?
I think we are live now. Sam?
Yep, we're live now, yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody, and good evening also to the members of the public who may be joining us on YouTube. This meeting is brought to you via Zoom meeting, and welcome to the Shadow Wellingborough Town Council meeting of today, the 20th of January. First of all, may I receive the apologies for the meeting tonight? Carl, do you? I have received apologies from Councillor Eakins, from Councillor Graves and Councillor Griffith. Are there any other apologies, please?
There are apologies from Councillor Maguire and from Councillor Watts.
Thank you. Okay. I think that is all of the apologies. Sorry?
Problems hearing you.
I can hardly hear you. I'm sorry.
I'm having problems hearing you, Councillor Norman.
Okay. Can everybody else hear me okay?
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
very good. I can hear you.
Yes,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chairman.
So apologies for absence. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations from any member, please? If so, please indicate in the chat, which I can't see, so I need to be guided by our officers.
Don't have a chat function on Zoom.
Okay, wave your hand if you have any declarations of interest, please. Can you please?
I can't connect this. Can't connect.
You
You're in.
already have, Graham. You're there. We can see you.
Yeah, but I can't connect to my headphones, so we're getting reverb.
Can you go into the other room, please? Sorry about that.
Yeah, we get a lot of feedback from Mr. and Mrs. Norman.
Yes, because we're both now on iPads. Could you please go into the other room? Right, he's trying it on the other one. I would like to go to item 4, the report of the interim town clerk to seek approval for the minutes of the meeting. The first one being the approval of the minutes of the meeting of the 14th of October 2020, which was our inaugural meeting. Do I have your agreement to sign those as a true record of our first meeting? If so, please say aye.
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 Anybody against or abstaining? No. Okay, that is then carried. We then come to the approval in 4.2, the approval of the minutes of the staffing committee of the 23rd of November. May I ask Councillor Bell to present his minutes? You need to unmute yourself, Councillor Bell.
I don't think
Can you hear me
Councillor
now?
Bell has logged
Yes.
on. Oh, he is.
Yes.
There he is.
Right, sorry, if so many people. Can you hear me, Chairman?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Right, thank you. I wish to present the report of the staffing committee of the Town Council on the meeting 14th October 2020.
Thank you. Item 1, item 2, 3, 4. With the resolution, which is a recommendation to the full council. And 5, the close of the meeting. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Aye.
Aye.
You've got a couple of raised hands.
I cannot see raised hands. I need the officers to guide me, please, if they are raised hands.
Raised hands from Councillor Scarborough, Graham Lawman, Anslow, and Oh, no, you've just gone away.
Okay. Councillor Scarborough?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Could I first of all urge those of my colleagues who are not muted, who are a significant number of those present, to mute when you're not speaking. That may reduce feedback. Thank you. Right. I have something of a concern about this recommendation. The trouble is that what we have here are two committees, one of which deals with staffing, the other one deals with the budget of the town council and the precept. But the two are, of course, impeccably linked. I was aware that we were going to pay a very large amount of money for a town clerk, and was reasonably willing to support that on the basis we were planning a very active town council with many functions. What we've got at the moment is a very large amount of money for staff costs and no services whatsoever, if I read right what's proposed. I think the only customer-facing service that the town council will start with is twinning, which sadly can at best be described as a minority interest among the inhabitants of Wellingborough. So I do have a concern that we're going to be paying £102,000 in staffing costs if this is agreed, £180,000 all up in terms of the precept, and it's very unclear from the papers what we're going to get for our money. Or if I can put it another way, how would I explain that to the average Wellingborough person on the Queensway, that somebody's getting paid £50,000 to £70,000 to do what? So what I would like to hear from the officers is a clear understanding about why they feel it's appropriate to pay this amount, and what the tasks of this highly paid officer will be when there are no services to deliver. My worry is this is a bit like making a large bet on the 330 with no guarantee that your horse will win. We're paying a lot of money and we don't know whether the unitary authority will give us anything. And if they do, whether they will give us properly funded or they'll merely pass the responsibility without the budget, what we call in the trade unfunded mandate, which will then end up with the people of Wellingborough paying double, in addition to the very large amounts of money they're being asked to pay for the on-costs of setting up essentially the central office of the town council. So I would appreciate some filling in of the background by officers here as to why we need to pay this money and what we're going to get for it. Thank you.
Normally the chairman actually answers those queries. But Councillor, I fully understand where you're coming from, but Councillor Scarborough, you have had the paper of the Finance and Governance meeting on the 22nd of December. If I can refer you to the last page, you have got the exact breakdown of the proposed revenue budget.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah, and on both pages, you can see how the costs were arrived. But may I invite Mr. Darcy to please add an explanation? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. A fair question, I think, Councillor Scarborough. It was debated heavily at the staffing committee around what will the role be, what should the pay be. There was probably a lengthy discussion. It was probably between half an hour and an hour discussing that and getting that rate set effectively at the level that was in there. It was then also debated again at the Finance and Governance Committee when we set the precept. So I appreciate the problem is there's no services from day one for the new town clerk, but there is obviously a lot of negotiation from that post with the unitary council as to which services we would want the town council to run post the elections, and trying to get those across from the unitary and then delivering those for the new town council. So it was trying to strike a balance of getting the right expertise and skills for negotiation with the unitary for services, as well as the operation and running of the services for the town council. So, you know, other members were part of those discussions, and there were people with different opinions on that, but that's where the committees came into putting that band as part of the precepts, and that's where it got approved on.
Thank you, Mr. Darcy. I think that answered it very well.
Madam Chair, may I answer a supplementary question, if I may?
Yes,
I
yes,
think I understand that. I understand that very well. I am interested to know what evidence of good faith there is in the budgetary discussions of the unitary, particularly, that any progress is going to be made. At the moment, we have no idea, for example, whether COVID permitting, there will be any events in Wellingborough in 2021, 2022. So what about this spring's Wendell Wart's looking very dicey. What about next year's? We have no guarantee that any of that will happen. We also have absolutely no guarantee about the continuation of civic functions and the mayoralty. I note that's in the long list of things to be talked about at some stage in the future. Well, my guess is if there's a break, that becomes increasingly difficult. I think Rochester lost its city status because there was a break, and they failed to take the necessary steps as quickly enough to ensure they retained it when they were amalgamated into a much larger Medway Towns authority. So I have considerable concerns that there is very little evidence that I've seen, at least, of good faith and a willingness to make quick progress on behalf of our counterparts at the forthcoming unitary authority, and that's why I'm expressing these concerns. Thank you, Madam Chair, for your indulgence. I'm grateful.
Thank you, Councillor Scarborough. Mr. Darcy, do you want to answer the supplementary, please?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Completely agree with Councillor Scarborough's comments. We have flagged these from Wellingborough, and I know Kettering and Corby are flagging the same concerns to make sure things can be taken forward for the new town councils. Just to provide a little bit of reassurance, I do know that Rob Bridge, the new North Northampton Chief Executive, has had discussions with Cornwall Council as to how their devolution has gone since they became a large unitary, and how devolution has worked in that county. So they are trying to take that all on board to try and make sure they get it right for Northampton, well, definitely for North Northamptonshire, and hopefully West will do the same for their new town council as well for Northampton. So those measures are being taken by the management team. I guess you just need to see evidence from a member perspective that you get told what is happening and how it's being taken forward. So again, I can pass that back to the management team.
Thank you, Mr. Darcy. Councillor Bell, if you can wait for a moment, please. The next one I think on the list was Councillor Lorman.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have some sympathy. I welcome the report, but I have some sympathy with Councillor Scarborough's view. I think that the town council initially needs to be doing two things. One is to not run before it can walk, though it must put itself in a position to grow and offer and grow. And initially, as we've just heard, be mostly negotiating with North Northamptonshire and investigating schemes to progress. I have looked at the NAUC and Society of Local Council Clerks information and note that they recommend a pay grade of LS2 for any council with a precept up to £250,000. But this is, however, the pay grade suggested for the finance officer, and we do expect it to grow and would want to make a good appointment and a successful appointment. So I'd like to propose an amendment to 4.2, removing on the salary scale detailed therein and replacing it with pay scale LC3, spinal column points 37 to 45. This gives us a good range for the candidates and offers potential for the future. And with the current pay rate, obviously subject to pay rises and so on, would be between just under £40,000 and just under £48,000 for that spinal column point range. And so that's my proposal that we do to enable us still to offer a bit more value for money for residents and still attract a candidate who was suitable for the post. Thank you.
I
Thank
will
you,
second
Councillor
that, Chairman, if I may.
First of all, we've got Councillor Bell, Councillor Harrington.
Okay.
So, thank you, Chairman. Actually, Councillor Lawman's stole my fund. I was going to recommend that anyway, so I'll happily second that recommendation.
That's brilliant.
It's a much better way if you think that we're in close region to us. Stanwick and Duxton parish town clerks earn £26,000 a year, so it gives you a comparison for a small town or village against what is going to be a large town of 40-odd thousand people. So I'm happy to support that recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Before we go to any vote, I've got Councillor Anslow, followed by Councillor Harrington, and followed then by Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I did actually second the proposal for level 4, because at the time it seemed the right amount, but having listened and thought about it, I would probably go along with what Councillor Lawman has suggested, but with the proviso that there's some sort of well, there will be some sort of the opportunity to have an increase once we are up and running, as Councillor Lawman described it, which we want to be from day one. We don't want really to be sort of like kicking our heels and wondering what to do with ourselves from vesting day onwards. We do really need to be working as a town council from day one. But I'm happy to make that that change. However, has the application forms gone out? Has it been advertised already? That's what I'd like to know, in which case there may be a bit of an issue.
Councillor Darcy, Mr. Darcy, sorry, has anything been actioned yet? Mr. Darcy?
I don't know if Carol was on to confirm, but we were obviously waiting for full approval, so we've done a lot of the background work. As far as I'm aware, I don't think we've fully issued anything, but confirm if she's on.
Thank you. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Councillor Anslow, does that answer your question? Yep. Okay. Councillor Harrington, next.
Yeah, really, just to reiterate, I think what Councillor Lawman has already put forward is right. I think level LC3 is the correct level, certainly to start with anyway. I just feel that we should get this underway as soon as we possibly can, so that we know we can get familiarised with whoever it is that we decide to employ. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harrington. The next one was Councillor Carr. You're muted.
Thank you, Chairman. Totally agree with Councillor Lawman. All I would say is this new person, this is a totally new role. You know, Wellingborough hasn't, as a town, hasn't had a town clerk for over 45 years. This new person is not only going to be dealing with new councillors who have got new ideas, they're going to have to deal with a new unitary to move things forward in that regards. They're going to have to do a lot of networking with community groups, partners within the town. They're going to have to come up with some ideas. They're going to have to put business cases together. They're really going to have to help whoever is on this town council going forward as a bit of a guiding light with them. So I totally agree with what Councillor Lawman's put forward. And likewise, you know, this person, as we step up over the next years and the years to come, you know, with any job, you get paid for the work that you undertake. So I think we look forward to this very much in the town of Wellingborough. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Mr. Darcy, did you want to come back? Your hand is up.
Please, thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to make a suggestion that completely agree with all the comments made, and this was discussed at both committees actually. I just wondered whether we could put the suggestion of the grade is LC3 to LC4 as a recommendation. However, we would expect that they'd be appointed in the LC3 range to start with, but the LC4 range is there for in the future. That's just something to consider, but it could be an option, and it would just keep it nice for the precept set as well, if you like.
Thank you. Councillor Carr, did you want to come back, or is your hand still up from the last time? Okay. Is there anybody else? I can only see a limited amount of people on my screen. Is there anybody else who's got their hand up who I haven't got to?
We have no hands up at the moment.
Okay,
Oh no, Councillor Asman and Councillor Graham Lawman have just put their hands up now.
Councillor Aslam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify from Mr. Darcy that between LC3 and LC4, and then for the future, I mean, future, do we have any specific time set that at particular, say, 1 year, 2 year, we're going to look at your salary or what? Thank you.
That could be deemed by the committee as necessary. So it just keeps that flexibility of the grade is just a much wider range of grade. So we could set as part of the appointments committee, you could have a time scale included for that, or you could just again leave that flexible and be decided at future meetings around. You know, you could actually change it and leave the grade as a lower grade and then increase it in future years as part of the precept as well. So the options are there. It's just adding that flexibility in that you keep it a wide range, but you keep the flexibility of the higher point in the future should you need it.
Thank you, Mr. Darcy. Councillor Graham.
Sorry, Chair. Just to finish that point there. At the staffing meeting, committee meeting, we agreed to look for the particular staff for this. Have we done anything else further, applications or advertised nationally, or what is the scenario on that?
I think Mr. Darcy answered that just now for Councillor Anslow, that it has not yet been implemented. You may have missed that.
Apologies, I didn't hear it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Graham Lawman.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, in answer to Mr. Darcy, I was assuming that over time and as qualifications are obtained, because the budget does include a certain amount for training and budget and qualifications, that whoever it was would be able to go up the pay scales and pay grades. What I quoted was 8 spinal condition column points, which is quite a wide band, up to just under 50,000, but which I think is where we'd prefer to be. But if the wording needs to be LC4 for a particular reason, then perhaps yes, we can look at that.
Thank you, Councillor Lawman. Is there Councillor Scanlon?
I absolutely agree with the proposal that's made about the LC3, and I'm absolutely against what Sean Darcy unfortunately has put forward. I don't think you can at this stage predict what the future is, and it has to have a starting point. And I think that starting point is as far as we can go. So I would not be in agreement to any amendment to say there would be another grade to be looked at. It needs to be set at the grade that we're saying is more appropriate at this stage.
Thank you, Councillor Scanlon. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on this matter? Otherwise, I refer now back to Councillor Francis.
Yes, I'd just like to say that I'm not very comfortable having the grade at 3/4. I think we should just have it at 3 for now, and if and when the individual gains further qualifications and experience and their skills improved, they can always come back to this committee, and we can decide at that point whether they should go up to the next grade. But for now, I think we should just stay with the grade that's been proposed by Councillor Lawman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Francis. Mr. Darcy, you wanted to come back?
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify then. So because in the precept, obviously now changing the grading would affect the precept if we do nothing else on the pay grading. Can I make a suggestion that we calculate the difference between the LC3 and LC4, and that we propose that that would now create a reserves line for the town council? So we keep the precept the same amount, but we will have now a transfer of a reserve amount for the town council, if that's okay.
That makes perfect sense to me, but as long as everybody else is in agreement. Councillor Scanlon, did you want to come back, or is your hand still up from previous?
I'll put my hand down, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else who wishes to speak?
Councillor York.
Councillor York.
I was just wondering, Madam Chairman, does Mr Darcy's suggestion need to be proposed and seconded? If so, I'd be willing to do either.
Right. If I go to 4.2, we've approved the minutes of in 4.1. In 4.2, if Councillor Bell could put the adoption of the minutes with the amendment, and if you are minded to agree to such amendment, either as Councillor Graham Lorman has suggested, with LC3 spine 37 to 45, or with the suggestion from Mr Darcy to keep it flexible in grade LC3 to LC4 for the future. Could Councillor Bell, could you please?
Madam Chairman, point of order, you can only take one amendment at a time, so you need to vote on the one amendment first.
Right. Okay. Then we take 4.2 as is. Are you in agreement with 4.2 as it is written in the request from the interim town clerk? If you're in favour, say aye. If you are against.
Madam Chairman, you've got an amendment. You need to vote on the amendment first, and then if it's passed, it becomes substantive.
Okay. We vote on the amendment then, as suggested by Councillor Graham Lorman, and I think it was seconded by Councillor Bell.
Right, Madam Chairman.
That the increase would be, the pay grade would be LC3, spine 37 to 45. All in favour, please say aye.
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 Anybody against?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody?
Aye.
Anybody against? Abstaining? I take that is the substantive motion. There is another amendment that was put forward to keep it flexible, that LC3 spine 37 to 45 would be read as grade LC3 to LC4 for future purposes. Are you in favour?
Point of order, Madam Chair. I don't think that one has actually been
no,
or seconded. So it's just that change to part one of what we're being asked to resolve.
You're absolutely right. Was there any proposer for the suggestion from Mr Darcy? I take that as a no. Therefore, the recommendation is that 4.2 will be changed at the end, where it says the financial officer with immediate effect on the salary scale, LC3, spine 37 to 45. All in favour, please show once again.
Aye.
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 Anybody against? Any abstentions? Yeah, that is carried. 4.3, may I have the presentation of the minutes of the Finance and Governance Committee of the 22nd of December. Councillor Graham Lorman, please.
Sorry, Chairman, point of order. We haven't accepted the minutes. You haven't adopted the minutes.
I'm not doing very well tonight, am I?
It's one of those days, Madam Chairman.
It was. Councillor Bell, may I have the adoption of the minutes from you?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. just before we go into adoption, just the point that the bit that Mr. Darcy made about a financial matter is a matter that should come under the next section on finance, not under staffing.
Yeah.
Therefore, with that said, I move for the council's approval, the minutes, or please adopt the minutes of the staffing committee, which is actually met on Monday the 23rd of November. So move.
I will second the adoption, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. And now we do it all again. All in favour, please show.
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Any abstentions? That is now carried. And my apologies, I will do better next time. 4.3, the approval of the minutes of the Finance and Governance Committee of the 22nd of December. Councillor Graham Lorman.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to move reception of the Finance and Governance minutes. I'd just like to point out the paragraph where, since the discussion we had, the harmonisation of council tax across North Northamptonshire has been agreed, and it's slightly reduced the Band D by about 9p, I think. So slightly less. And I also point out to members that there's a balance of something like £57,000 in round figures left over from this current financial year. And it may well be that with the decision just made on the town clerk, there is sufficient there for the town council, once it's up and running, to investigate taking on these events in answer to Councillor Scarborough's queries, because it would have something like the £70,000 that would have been in the budget if we'd gone for option 2. So that is there. I'm confident that money is in the North Northamptonshire budget anyway, but it will give it some flexibility. So I would commend this report and the recommended precept to you.
Thank you, Councillor Lorman. Report number 1, 2, 3, 4 with the appendices, and turning over to 5, the adoption, please. Councillor Lorman?
Yeah, no, I'd muted myself so as not to. So I'd propose adoption of the minutes of the meeting and adoption of item 4.3 minute in the papers.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lorman. Could I please ask, in accordance with our practice at the Borough Council, we asked for recorded vote because it is a precept in the budget. So therefore, if we can please have the recorded vote for this. Sam, I believe, how are you doing that with poll, or just reading out the names?
Well, a poll would only do the full thing. It wouldn't do individuals. Okay. So I think it would have to be a list of names.
Okay.
So we do have a hand raised from Councillor York at the moment.
Yes, Councillor York.
Madam Chairman, before we adopt action 4.3, do we need to make that amendment on the financial matter that Mr. Darcy brought up about the creating a reserve line for the spare salary?
That's a very good point, Councillor Graham Lorman. It is
yes,
your...
Thank you. Within the proposed revenue budget, there were a number of lines. And there was a contingency line of £10,000, and if this is just a matter of increasing that line in accordance with the amount that turns out to be required after the hopeful appointment of the staff. So we can just amend the contingency line.
Thank you. Councillor York, does that answer your question?
It does, thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who had their hand up? No.
Yeah, no hands raised, no.
Okay, the adoption, please, and with the adoption, may I ask for the recorded votes to be taken? I don't know who's going to read out the names.
Do you want me to read them, Sam?
Yes,
yeah,
please.
Yeah, okay. Right, I'll start now. Councillor Abraham, she's not here, is she? Sorry. Oh, sorry. Councillor Allibone.
Madam Chairman.
Councillor Anslow.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Councillor Aslam.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Councillor Bell.
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Bone.
Councillor Bone had to leave.
She's left, okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Carr.
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Eakins, I don't
It's
see
not
her.
present. It's not present.
No. Right, okay. Councillor Emerson.
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Francis.
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Graves and Griffiths aren't here. Councillor Hallam.
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Harrington.
Yes, for Madam Chairman.
Councillor Henley.
Or
Councillor Graham Lawman.
or
Councillor Laura Lawman, do you want to vote or not?
Yes, I vote for.
Yes. Okay. Councillor Patel.
Is he present?
He was earlier. Is he? Yes, he's still on.
Umesh.
Microphone.
Do you want to come back later to him?
Yeah, we'll come back to Councillor Patel. Councillor Scanlon.
Yes, Madam Chairman, yes.
Councillor Scarborough.
For.
Councillor Skittrell.
For Madam Chairman.
Councillor Wallier.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
For Madam Chairman.
Councillor M. Waters.
For Madam Chairman.
Councillor V. Waters.
For Madam Chairman.
Councillor Watts, is she on?
No, she's not here.
No. Councillor Weatherall.
For Madam Chair.
Councillor York.
For Madam Chairman.
And Councillor Patel again, have you managed to join? Thank you, Councillor Patel.
That completes.
That's everyone, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Therefore, our business and the proposed actions in the report of the interim town council clerk is completed. I do not have any other business, and I close the meeting at 7:40. And I would like to thank you very much for your attendance, and my apologies that I got a bit muddled up early on. I will improve.